hey guys, you actually have the influence to change the atmosphere with the words you say, with the thoughts you think, and the attitude you choose.
Hey guys, it's Mindi Linscombe, your host, and welcome back to the Something New Show. And today we're going to talk about how to make sure you're having quality time with your kids. And with our none other guest than my husband, my partner in crime, and also the one helping me raise these children, Jordan Linscombe. Thanks for being here. And let's just talk about working parents and having to prioritize making sure you still have quality time with your kids, and how this is such a hard reality and a juggle to face. I mean, wouldn't you say so many parents tell us all the time, how do you make sure you have time for your kids, or that you're at your kids' activities with all that you do?
Yeah, that's one of the top questions we hear is, how do you guys do it all? With everything that we do, I always tell people, but the most important thing is our marriage and our kids above all the things that we're doing. So yeah, one thing is I'm married to a time management amazing, expert. And so that helps. So kudos to you, because I've really learned a lot from you in our journey together. But it's hard sometimes. It takes intentionality of like, how do you do all the things, go for your goals and other things in life. But at the same time, the more important thing is your family. And so we've heard that saying, like, if you want to change the world, go home and love on your family and love on your kids. And so we're going to dive into that today.
Let's talk about, I think the number one success tip I have for just all of that we do is the time management piece. And so people ask me, what do I do to organize my time? Well, first of all, I decide what my priorities are. And I say, okay, my number one thing is my family. How is that week going to look like? Because I want the hours allocated to my family to match my priority there. If the second thing might be some volunteerism or some ways that I serve, or maybe it's my work, or, different commitments I've made. Maybe I'm developing a skill, taking lessons. Those are things that you start to map out how much time should be allocated to those priorities. And so once we decide, okay, it merits this amount of my week, then we sit down every Sunday night, we pull out our calendars. And for those of you that don't know, I am old school paper, week at a glance. I really like to see my week at a glance on paper, and it's divided by half-hour segments. So I am very intentional. I put down from my reading, my Bible time, my prayer time, my walks, my exercise, my time with you, my time with my kids. Everything is by the half hour. And so I basically treat it like my budget, like you do with our dollars. You do that type of accuracy with the dollars we spend. And I love that. I think it's really important to have a budget and everything else. I am not the person to think about the budget as much, but I am absolutely budgeting my minutes, my time, and I want to make sure I'm giving it to the things that I've chosen that matters most. So on Sunday night, I look through and I say, okay, well, what are my work commitments this week? What are your work commitments this week that are absolutely must happen? Like, we won't get paid unless we do that, and we got to feed our children. So we put that on the calendar. Then we talk about where are we going to exercise? When are you going to work out? When am I going to work out? Okay, we got to stay healthy. We then talk about who is taking the kids to school, because we've decided way long time ago that we wanted to be the ones to take our kids to school. And I want you to tell them what happens in the car and how special that is in just a second. But basically, either Jordan or I have decided, regardless of the childcare situation, regardless of who is watching our children, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we've decided we're going to commit to, and our jobs were flexible enough to allow for that. Not everyone is, but to one of us taking our kids and one of us picking them up. And why do you think car time is so important?
Well, the thing is, it compounds over time. And so, we have like a 12-minute drive for most of our kids to their campus. If you add that up over the however many days of school, like, it really is a lot of quality time with our kids. So yeah, we're all looking out the windshield or other things, but we've learned and we've been mentored that those are really precious moments that you can't overlook. And so, a typical morning when I'm driving the kids is we connect, and is it flawless and beautiful and things all the time? No.
No, there's a lot of fighting in the car.
Like, oh my goodness, we got to get out the door. So still working on some morning habits with the kids. However, we've even just developed a simple habit of with the kids, we'll watch the YouVersion Bible app, like Kids Experience, turn on that video, and they know now. They're like, hey, Dad, can
and
we
it's
watch
only
the
like
video?
60 seconds. So then there's a whole bunch of conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not promoting watching a video on the way to school. We're saying we're going to listen to possibly some scripture. I'll do the Bible app just in general, sometimes for like 60 seconds or 2 minutes to then lead us into a conversation.
Yeah. And what I love about it, though, we're grounding our day often with something positive, true, eternal. It's often reminds us to be grateful. But we have some time in conversation with the kids to encourage them and get them set off for the day. So
I feel like, in a way, I feel like it's so nice because I feel like they're trapped. They have to listen to me right now. So sometimes when we're at home, everybody's out doing their own thing, like going and doing their homework or playing the drums or in the garage doing whatever. And so I love when we're in the car because everybody's buckled up. There's no technology. They're absolutely forced to listen to me. So I'm like, this is amazing. This is when I can guarantee that the message I want them to hear will be heard. Whether they receive it is up to them. But
yeah, and yeah, I love music, big time. Really love music. But I've really challenged myself too. It's like, who gets the microphone in this car ride? Like some artist that's sharing whatever message, and
that's good.
I love country music, this, that, or another. But like, there's times with our oldest, I'm like, I'm going to turn this down and I'm going to ask you a really good question. I'm going to take advantage of these 5 minutes, these 10, 15 minutes, so we can, seize that moment with their attention span and their time together.
Yeah. And I was thinking about how, like this morning, even on the way to school, as they were getting in the car, they were being so mean to each other and saying some really hurtful things. And I was like, that's it. We're going to talk about how our words have power. And we spent the whole 12 minutes to school, and it was like, they were engaged. And I said, your words have so much power. You change the atmosphere with your words. And so when you say those negative things to your siblings, you are actually stifling some beliefs that they have about themselves. When you talk, it needs to be only edifying people and building them up. If you have a thing that you might possibly, it might be misunderstood or perceived the wrong way, hold it in, keep it to yourself. Do not put it outside in the air for them to hear. And not just your siblings, but when you go to school today, I want you to make sure that everything you say is making someone feel better about themselves, whether that's the teacher or the friend that made a sacrifice to let you sit where they wanted to sit. Just whatever it is, we just took that whole entire car ride to talk about use your words to build others up instead of tearing your siblings down. You could have heard a pin drop because we were so, we were going towards it. But I was just like, get out of the car now and be positive with your words, because you have the ability, in the way I described it, is to grow a lifetime of a beautiful tree with beautiful fruit, with beautiful branches, awesome things coming to fruition. Or you can have the ability to have a dead tree that's like negative towards the world and is always hurting people your whole life with your words. And the difference is darkening. And it's the type of life I hope that they choose to live is the one that keeps putting positivity into the world. And if we wouldn't have had the car ride, we probably would not have had their attention.
And we talk a bit about being the weather maker, right? Whatever room we walk into, we have the ability to set the atmosphere, set the tone, and it's tempting sometimes to get lazy or like I'm tired or this or that or another. So that's something we're still working on at home as well too. It's like, hey guys, you actually have the influence to change the atmosphere with the words you say, with the thoughts you think, and the attitude you choose. And so positivity, gratitude, and all that stuff, it really does make a difference in our minds, our hearts, and then into those around us. So yes, to come back to it, we're talking about, time management and taking advantage of the time in the car. That's one aspect of it. And we also work really hard to pick up our kids from school in the afternoons as much as we can. So as both working parents for many years now, our oldest is 14 at the moment. So we've got some experience in this, but we're saying, okay, we have these time segments of the day where we've got to get our key stuff done.
And it's not always convenient because you have to leave a meeting or
schedule around it.
We just decide though on our Sunday night, okay, it's Tuesday a day. You can go get them. I can't because I have a late meeting or whatever. So we're definitely, we're the Uber, but we chose to do that because of like you said, if you compound all those minutes together of somebody having the microphone in their ear, who's it going to be? So it's a challenge, and it's never been easy. And it's also a challenge because, that cuts into your day. So sometimes I would say if one parent could go early to work while the other parent brings them, so they could be off by 3:30 or whatever. And then if the other parent can go in right after drop off at 8:00 and then work until 5, that's been really, really a way that we've been able to just kind of share the load, so that one of us though is in the car with them, listening to them about their day. Somebody's going to hear that day that they had, and it might be their friends that they download that to, but in the season we're in, we want that to be us. There will be a change, right? One day when your kids get older, they start to debrief sometimes with their friends too. And that's totally fine. There's good things that can come from peer relationships. But I think that there's a fight almost going on for our children for who gets to listen to how they're doing. And I want it to be me for as long as possible, so I can support and help them get in the right mind frame of like, maybe what happened is not that big of a deal, or maybe what took place at school today was hurtful, but how can we navigate tomorrow? And that sounding board really matters right now, especially for teenagers. It matters to be the sounding board. So I think if you capture that car time, you're going to be surprised at how much more you hear versus if they go straight to their next activity and then all of a sudden it's bedtime, before you know it. So
yeah, so for us as parents is how do we keep being that safe person, that safe place for them to talk to? You do such a good job at that. I'm always amazed. Not just with our kids, but for anybody, be like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I just feel so comfortable with you and all the things. But it challenges me as well too. Like, how do we be better and better at that with what we're doing? And let's talk about seasons in a moment, because there's working parents out there who have different rigid schedules or flexible schedules
or ages of children.
Yeah. And so we've gone through different seasons for sure.
So just a reminder, we have 4 kids and we had them all 2 years apart. So for our business is 17 years old. Our oldest is 14. So for 3 years, we were entrepreneurs. I mean, we had careers before we were entrepreneurs. So we were working married, then we were entrepreneurs married. And as our friends were having their first babies, we said, let's start a business. So we were a little bit older when we started having kids. It's not that that's old, but I think it was 29 or 30 when I had Bear. When a lot of our kids were starting at 27, we started a business at 27 and then started having kids at 30. And so what I would say to people is like, we didn't really have money for childcare. So we would trade with other friends that needed childcare also. I remember we would watch somebody's baby and then they would watch our baby, and we would just kind of see what we could do to trade. There were sometimes, because I did own my own business, that I would wrap up a big pile of veils and just bring Bear with me, swaddle him, pile him on the veils for nap time in my 900 square foot first shop. And then you start to bring a baby bouncer and put it in one of the dressing rooms and stuff like that. But as little by little, okay, now I do have room for maybe daycare or childcare, but we were always trying to do the least amount possible, mainly because we wanted to be with our kids, but also it was a cost saving. So then we started to switch our schedules around to be where I would work on the days that you didn't work and vice versa. And so I think that was really, sometimes I wonder, how did we do it? With Bear, especially, because I didn't have any employees. And I think I worked a lot in the evenings as soon as you got off work, which is when my shop was busier anyways, but I worked a lot in the evenings and then the weekends. So it was a very much ships passing. Yeah.
And then we started to grow the team, but there was a lot of let's just lean in and figure this out. Yeah. And then we've often talked about dadder days. And so I've had countless Saturdays, and we make a good team. It's a decision we've made together. We're going to sacrifice and support each other while the other one's out there getting certain things done for our company. But yeah, we just had a lot of times where I'd hold down the fort with him at home, and then Brody came, and then Blake in Brooklyn. So I think the big idea here is
can I tell a story?
Yeah.
I want you to share your big idea, but I remember one night we were having a babysitter. That was the season we were in. We had 2 kids, Bear and Brody. And I still can picture sitting in our room. We both had our laptops out, working into midnight, and we get a text that our babysitter canceled. And I was like,
for early the next day.
Yes. And I was like, wait a minute. I have a very big whatever. I don't even know what was happening the next day, but it was something I absolutely could not cancel. And then you're like, well, I can't miss tomorrow. I have such a, I'm like, can't you call off sick or stay home, like use a PTO day? And you're like, no, I have a presentation with my boss and blah, blah, blah.
As a reminder, I was working a corporate role for nearly 15 years.
And I was like, well, I have a photo shoot or something big. And I was like, we were back and forth at each other. Like, I cannot work. And this babysitter season was challenging because it was like, if they canceled, it was like, okay, now who's going to give up their plans? Yeah. And it just kind of made us hit a new season, which is when we decided to get an au pair. And I have told a lot of working parents about au pairs. It's not always for everyone, but if they're both working and you need the dependability. So we went from trading babysitting to hiring babysitters on the like 2 days that we overlapped. Then we went to an au pair because we're like, we need the dependability of not ever having someone cancel. Because see, when they live in your house, they can't really cancel. So she would just come upstairs from her room and she would start to work for the day. And that was such an amazing actual support to us in that season.
It was.
And then after an au pair, we then went to a full-time nanny because after we had someone live with us for a while and had a third kid, we didn't have an extra bedroom anymore. So we said, okay, let's go back to a nanny. And then we were committing to a full-time nanny. And that was different than a babysitter because it was like their full-time job. And I always tell people, you can't get the commitment of a full-time person with a part-time babysitter. So if anybody has the unrealistic expectations, I've had so many walks with moms. They're like, I hate it. My babysitter is independable. Or like, I can't depend on her. And I said, well, it's probably because this is her part-time gig. So she has a lot of other things going on and you have to realize you're not her number one. But if you can make this a full-time gig for her and it's her full-time job, then you are her number one and you can depend on her. So that's when we jumped to full-time childcare. And then we got most people in school, went back down to part-time childcare and the independabilities again, but it's okay because it's all we needed. And then this fall, Jordan, after almost 15 years of figuring this out, are you excited for August? All 4 of our children are going to be in all-day school. I'm like sad, but also like, oh my gosh, we made it. I feel like I'm crossing a finish line as a parent that all of my kids will be in all full-time school.
Will you go to breakfast with me the first day we check them all in?
Yeah, let's actually not work that day. Let's go to breakfast. Let's go sit by the pool. Let's just make that our day off that week.
You heard it here.
Okay. Right. I know. But what were you going to say? The big idea?
No, yeah, it just, again, we recognize there's different seasons for different couples and their dynamics and things. And so I think it's just recognizing the moment because we went from like, okay, the au pair was like 40 hours allowed of their time a week. And then the nanny was more like 32 hours. And we had part of the agreement was they helped cook in certain elements and things for the week. So there's just different needs for different seasons. And we had to learn and respond with that accordingly.
Now I don't need a nanny as much as I need a house manager, which is so helpful. That's the person that manages all the logistics of your home, from your grocery shopping to your laundry to your oil changes to all that little stuff that just compounds and can be very much overtaking your time when your time's more valuable if you spend it elsewhere, especially in your business. So I'm excited because we already do have a house manager, but I think as we go into the fall and we don't have the childcare anymore, that we can say, hey, is there any way we can reallocate some of those funds to build up that house manager role to be maybe from part-time to 3/4 time or something like that, and use them even more than we do now. So we just have to look at our budget. We have to decide, what do we absolutely need? How does it work? How do we put it all together?
Many young professionals ask me how to navigate selecting a career with purpose. Discovering our life path can feel overwhelming and out of reach. So we developed a tool to make finding your greatest contribution practical and achievable. Head to the show notes and click the link to immediately download our practical guide to discovering your greatest contribution. This is a series of journal prompts and pages developed by me, Mindi Linscombe, to help you discover exactly where you need to be.
I want this episode really to be focused on what we say is eyeball time. And so when we look at our week, back to that Sunday night schedule, we say not just who's picking up the kids, but we say, when are we going to have eyeball time with our kids? Eyeball time means that you're looking at their eyes. You're not just in the same room looking at screens or in the same room working, because that's not what they want. They want someone to look at them in their eyes, to ask them about how they feel. What does it feel like to be you right now? What's your favorite thing that you love in life? What's the hardest thing? What's bugging you?
High, lows, buffaloes, we've talked about.
Yeah, we sometimes at dinner will say, well, high, low, buffalo. So your high of the day, your low, and then buffalo is just like, what was the thing that just totally surprised you, caught you off guard? You didn't expect to see a friend from your, old school pop into the lunchroom, or you didn't expect to cross the monkey bars, but it was like you made it all the way. Or you didn't expect to make the football team, but you made it, or whatever it might be. I'm just saying the buffalo stuff is really fun. Sometimes it could be a silly thing their teacher said it's in class that made them laugh, but we always say, hey, what was... Just if the conversation is stagnant, sometimes the conversation is just already going. We don't have to ask questions, but other times it's more quiet. And so we go around and we say, whenever you want to talk, everybody's going to share a high, a low, and a buffalo. But we've found this time can sometimes even be at bedtime. Sometimes it's like you go from school to football to theater to whatever. And we just have a rule too that our kids are only in one thing at a time. I think that's something that a parent that I can think of, Stacy Barrett, she's still an icon to me. She has 8 children, 7 boys and a girl. And she is such an amazing mom. And I asked her years ago when I was a teacher and I looked at her as a mom, I said, how do you do activities with that many kids? Now I don't have 8, I have 4. But she said, I only let them do one thing at a time. So like every kid gets to do their choice. One might be piano lessons, one might be football or whatever. So that has helped us not go crazy with overbooking and overscheduling our kids, because if you do that, I think you're going to wear your kids out. They don't need too much activity.
And it's not a never, but there are times where we're like, hey buddy, if you sign up for this, it's signing the whole family up for this. That's a conversation we've had.
Oh
so
my
we're like,
goodness.
can we just really understand?
Can we talk about club baseball right now?
Can we understand the time commitment to drive and to practice and the actual games?
Can we talk about club baseball?
Yeah, let's do that on another episode.
I did not realize you would be gone with Brody all weekend, every tournament. It is like, that's my busy season. That's like when I'm on the floor helping the girls in the store. Wow. I thought it'd be like, go to a game and back. No, they're all day tournaments, Saturday and Sunday.
So any baseball parents out there watching, please comment below with your thoughts on being a baseball parent.
So anyways, eyeball time, like I said, could also very much happen at night at bedtime. So people think we're crazy, but I don't care. I feel very connected to my kids. And so this is something I'm about to tell you when I say people think we're crazy. We both go around to each of our kids' bedrooms at night. So we they're in like a square. We kind of start on opposite ends, and then we like go around and each spend about 5-10 minutes. Eyeball time. Sometimes it's 15-20, depending on how much they need to tell us. We talk to them, we look at them, we reassure them how much we love them, how they're special to us, pray for them. And it's just like a very intimate, hold their hand, give them a hug, and we go around, and the whole thing takes an hour. I mean, it takes a good hour. But that's why we kind of laugh at those memes where people look like they've been through war, but they've went through bedtime routine. I'm like, yep, that's us. But we go around and one at a time. Like I said, I'll be with one kid, you'll be with another. And we do it. And our kids are 14 down to 6. And we still go around every night at bedtime. My teenager still wants me to tuck him in every night. But it's not like I'm tucking him in. I'm looking at him with my eyeballs and we're having strong connection. So that eyeball time matters, whether it's in the car, at mealtime, or just, I think we know, regardless of the fullness of the day, they're going to get to see us at bedtime.
Yeah. So we'll get as many of them as we can reading. Brooklyn's still learning along the way, but
yeah, they'll read while they wait for us.
And in between times and things, just to break it down. And that's another thing we've learned is like, let them read as long as they can. If it's a reasonable time of night, you just let them read into the evening. That's not bad for them. Even if it gets a little later, it's so good for their brain, all the things. So, and then we do this rotation. But for parents who are missing out on this, they're so missing out. Just sending your kid to bed and like, hey, good luck, all the best. So I've given you all I can today. Like, okay, there's days like that.
Yeah, I will say I've done that before.
We've had a few of those, here and there in the last quarter of the year. But the habit to build is like seize that moment. It's such a precious time because their hearts, their spirits will open up with questions, ideas, or hey.
I hear so much more at bedtime than any other time.
Mm-hmm. It's priceless. It's priceless. So you're tired, I'm tired, everybody's tired, but that's the golden moment. And so something we've just worked on more and more, and we still will.
And then my favorite part is when we get back to our room and we're like, what did he tell you? Did he tell you this?
Right.
And we like kind of like debrief, like, oh my gosh, like, did you hear da, da, da? Like very fun, exciting things that they just happen to spill their heart out. And I don't want to embarrass them, so I'm not going to share those things, but some fun, just like, as they get older, fun little updates that I've gotten, and I get to come back to our room and say, did he tell you this? Did she tell you that? And we kind of confer notes, like share notes, and then it just helps us for the next day. But I feel, even though I'm a working parent, I feel probably just as connected, if not more, than stay-at-home moms. And I know that sounds wild, because stay-at-home moms, homeschool moms are with their kids all day long, and they know their every little intricacy thing about them, which is beautiful. I just felt really called to the workplace. And so that's okay too. And I just want working moms to know you can feel just as close to your kids, even if you work. And I think if you were to ask my kids, they feel really proud of what we do. And I think that's a special thing that we can give them as well, a legacy of hard work and honorable business leaders in our community. But I don't feel like I'm missing connectivity with my kids, because I've made choices that the most solid moments to like make sure that they count, make sure I'm present, my phone is down, and they count.
Yeah. And for the dads out there, literally when I looked at my goals for this year, for 2024 this year, I literally have it on there to like get down on the carpet and connect and have eyeball time with our kids. It is one of my weekly goals of something to do. And my natural tendency isn't to do that, just to admit. It takes like, oh, this is the moment. I should set my, keep the phone in this. We have this box and charger box that we use in our room. I want to use it more. But put it away. Seize this really precious moment and get down on the floor with the kids. And it might be playing Legos. It might be doing something with our daughter, Brooklyn. But when we take
building a fort.
There's something about it for parents. I'm 6'5", but when you get down on their level, and play, that takes eyeball time to a whole nother level, I think, as well too.
Oh, for sure.
It's a humbling, it's a level setting in a way as a parent.
Like you come to their level.
Absolutely. So just you and I were talking about, but that's something I'm trying to do at least once a week.
And I've seen all the stuffed animals on the floor with the fort, so I know it's happening, which is so good.
Let's talk about a couple other examples of ways we're trying to do eyeball time as we wrap up today. So one of them is dinners. It's a fight for a lot of families to get around the table, not have distractions, not have a TV on. So even yesterday, like dinner for us was 4:30 because we had an evening event that we were doing. It might look different each night. It doesn't mean 6:30 p.m. everybody's there, picture perfect around the table. But that's one aspect we've really fought for, is how do we have as many dinners around the table with eyeball time and quality conversation that we can. We've also talked about running errands around town. Do you want to speak to that?
Oh, just whenever one of us have to run an errand, we definitely just look at who's the best person. We're going to take one kid with us.
Yep. And then other aspects of it is, you might just have a 5-minute segment in your day. Take advantage of it. It's so easy to just blow something off and like, oh, I've got this thing at the top of the hour. Well, if you can take 5 to 10 minutes to connect with your child, it's just the power of one moment or one intentional question or conversation, and having that eye-to-eye time can make things so much better for their day and for you. At the end of the day, when you go to bed, I think the more healthy eyeball time moments we have, the better we're going to be and feel relationally too.
So I hope people listening look at their weeks, look at their days, and say, hey, how can I implement some of these just ways to connect with your kid a little bit more clearly, and look at them in the eyes and try to get close to their hearts. Thank you guys for listening. This is from our heart to yours as working parents. I hope that you got a few takeaways. If you could make some comments below on something you're going to implement this week, we would love to hear. And we hope you keep joining us as we learn how to live a life worth celebrating. We'll see you next time on the Something New Show. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, and share with a friend. Also, follow The Something New Show on Instagram and Facebook. If you want a fuller experience, watch the show on YouTube to help you create a life worth celebrating.